If you feel drained all the time to the point where you don't have energy or motivation to do anything productive, it's probably not because you're lazy. It's because no one has ever taught you how to properly use emotional detachment. Most people are taught to work harder, to care more, and to push through hard times, but no one teaches you how to properly conserve your energy. So exhaustion starts to feel normal, when in reality it's really not. Most of these people that are successful, they do not push through hard times, they learn to detach earlier. Hence why I'm going to show you in this video how emotional detachment actually works. Not as bitterness, not as avoidance, but as a way to protect your energy so you can keep moving forward in the best way possible. Emotional detachment isn't numbness, it's refusing to spend finite energy on things that do not move you forward. And that line matters because people think that their problem is lack of motivation, but it's not. Let me tell you something, it's allocation. It's not that you lack discipline, it's just that you're spending emotional energy on things that do not return. Like, for example, you replay every argument in your head, you read every comment and every outcome and you personalize it. And that's self-sabotage, and most people, including maybe you, don't even realize that you're doing it. And that was my biggest mistake that I made early on, because it cost me more time and energy than anything else. And when I first started creating content, I was paranoid about what people would say, what people would think, how I would be perceived, etc, etc, etc. So instead of putting in work and putting in pain, I started overthinking on what to post, what to say, how to say it, etc. What is my cadence? And I realized something that is mad uncomfortable. Some of the people that I was trying to impress subconsciously weren't even people that I respected myself. I seen what they liked, I seen how they thought. So why was I letting their opinions slow me down? That's when I stopped trying to impress everyone and started doing things that actually felt aligned to me and my goals. And the moment I detached from their approval, my clarity came back, you feel me? And once I realized that, the question stopped becoming why am I so drained and started becoming where's my energy actually going? And deadass, let me tell you something, it's not the work. It's when I realized that caring about people's opinions is mad expensive. Not emotionally, energetically. Every time you read a comment, every time you explain yourself to someone who didn't ask, every time you adjust how you show up to avoid being misunderstood, you're playing for validation with momentum. And momentum is one thing you cannot afford to lose. I'm gonna give you an example. When you're on fire and you have motivation, you have the urge and the discipline to keep working on your goals. Think of it like basketball or playing a sport or soccer or some shit. When you're in that state, that flow state, nothing can go wrong. But as soon as something negative comes your way and you pay attention, your momentum grinds to a halt. And it'll take a while for you to build it back up again, you feel me? The opinion of someone who isn't building anything should never cost you energy. Be that as it may, detachment doesn't mean ignoring feedback. You take the information and you leave the emotion. Then people push back and say, okay, but I can't just stop feeling feelings, you feel me? But you're not supposed to. You're supposed to understand that emotion has a cost. Every emotional reaction causes focus, clarity, speed, etc. And that's why people feel tired when they're not even doing that much. Deadass is that simple. When you emotionally overspend on everything, you eventually start to resent the things that actually matter to you, like your family, friends, etc. And that's how people start burning out quickly. Then comes the next question, what about failure? And this is where detachment actually gives you power, you feel me? A bad result isn't rejection, it's just information. Your brain only turns it into attack when your identity is attached to the outcome. When your emotions stop helping you, they become they start sabotaging you. What's a good example? Take dating, for example. I'm pretty sure all of us got rejected by one person we're interested in or had a crush on. And some people treat that as a catharsis that validates that everything that they hate about themselves is true. But rejection doesn't mean that you're worthless. It's just proof that something you said, how you acted, your vibe, your appearance didn't land. And actually that's a good thing because it gives you something specific that you can improve on, you feel me, in the future. You don't grow from acceptance, you grow from feedback. And the people who spiral after rejection don't the people who personalize it, they let it define them. But the people who level up, they analyze it and they grow stronger because of it. When you detach your identity from the results, patterns become obvious. And patterns are how you improve quickly. So then people ask, all right, how do you move on without becoming cold? You realize that how fast you recover from losses matters more than the loss itself. Most people don't lose because they failed. They lose because they emotionally stay longer than the failure did. One bad outcome turns into days of rumination. You start better routing, you start obsessing over changing the outcome. You start losing motivation and your momentum dies quietly. I'm not gonna lie, this shit low-key happened to me this year. I had a horrible breakup with my ex and it took me a while to bounce back. And the only reason why this happened and I was still attached is because I was emotionally invested. We both moved on, but only one of us moved on. And this was the status quo until I learned detachment. Detachment lets you say that didn't work. Alright, let's move on. not coldly, but efficiently, you feel me? But usually after saying this is when usually someone says, oh, but isn't holding on a form of strength? In my opinion, no, it depends on the situation. But the detachment isn't giving up. It's when like you realize the battle's already lost and you refuse to lose more time to it. And some people might call that, like, some people might call holding on character, but most of the time it's just fear wearing a moral facade. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, the strongest people aren't the ones who endure pain the longest, they're the ones who let go the fastest. When you care more than the situation can hold, you start negotiating with inconsistency and silence, and this is what I had to learn. That's because over attachment destroys clarity. You stop seeing what is and start reacting to what you wish was there. And that doesn't just happen in relationships, even though it's the most prominent version of it. It happens in like work, identity, expectations, etc. And I'll break this down fully in another video, because detachment in relationships deserves its own space and its own room to breathe, because it's such a nuanced topic that I can't explain it in this video, you feel me? So stay tuned. But near the end, people usually realize something deeper. They say like, oh, so if I detach from certain outcomes, what am I anchoring to? And the answer is identity, because attaching identity to results is a big liability. When who you are depends on how things go, every setback feels like an attack on your being in my case. But I know some of you can relate to it. You start getting feelings of, yo, I'm not good enough, I need to work harder, this and the fourth, and that becomes extremely toxic. And when it gets to that point, you need to detach yourself from those goals. Be that as it may, detachment does not mean lower standards. It simply means that you protect your sense of self so you can keep showing up in the best way possible. Take me for an example. Ever since I was young, people expected great things out of me, including my family, my peers, etc. So I set high expectations on myself because I knew that people counted on me. But I realized like that's not fair to myself, because if I don't meet those expectations, people, including myself, would be absolutely devastated. And yet if I succeeded, people expect more and more and more from me. It's a catch-22, you feel me? I had to learn that it's all about balance, and in order to succeed and maintain my happiness, I have to take out other people's wants for my goals. And that's the most important thing. So trust me, I know it's hard to change, especially especially if you have to face disappointment or disapproval from somebody you love and people you care about. But you have to stop asking, how do I feel about this? And start asking, what does this change? Because feelings do not move you forward, decisions do. You do not owe your emotions control over your direction. You owe your future clarity. One thing that happens to a lot of people who are disciplined, motivated, and already survived the hard parts like the losses, the setbacks, the lonely sessions, etc., is that they accidentally betray their own future. Not because they're weak or because they gave up, but because they kept on dragging emotional weight into rooms that it doesn't belong anymore. You feel me? They already paid the price, they already learned the lesson, but instead of moving cleanly forward, they keep revisiting old pain, old narratives, like old versions of themselves, until like their future gets muddy and they can't see it clearly. And what's dangerous about this isn't the feeling of failure, it's regression disguised as reflection. You tell yourself you're being cautious or that you're protecting your heart, whatever that means. But in reality, you're letting past damage sit in the driver's seat of your next chapter. But here's the hopeful part, and I hope you listen to this shit like deadass. You don't lose progress because you feel deeply. You lose progress when you keep feeding emotions that already did their job. Deadass. Discipline doesn't mean you never feel. Growth means you know when to stop carrying. The people who genuinely win long term aren't the ones who push forever. They're the ones who learn their lesson, and when their lesson is over, they're done with it. They let it lie. And the moment you stop reliving what shaped you is the moment you clearly get to build what's next. That's not giving up on your past. That's honoring it by not letting it control your future. Trust me, it's gonna be extremely difficult, but if you want your life back, or if you want to start building your life, these are the steps you have to take. You have to forcefully grab your life back, bro. I'm telling you. If this felt accurate, do me a favor, hit that like button and that subscribe button. Plus, turn on post notifications so you get notified every time I make a new post. I break down the psychology behind behaviors we normalize and why they quietly cost us momentum, focus, and control. Stay tuned for my new video regarding emotional attachment and dependencies regarding relationships coming out next week. Also, if you're into fictions and comic books such as Star Wars, Batman, Marvel, etc., check out my channel. We got fiction, analysis, and psychology of all our favorite characters, gang. Damn, that's a lot. But anyways, I'm gonna catch you on the next video. I love y'all.